Today we're going to start our next lesson, which is Chapter 4, Lesson 6. Our main focus today is going to be multiplying fractions. So what I would like you guys to do right now is to go ahead and turn to page 312 in your book. That's the page that we're going to be starting on with Lesson 4-6. Okay. As you know, prior to today, we have been working a lot with adding and subtracting fractions with both like denominators and unlike denominators. So today we're going to be moving on to the multiplication of fractions. Hopefully you guys will find that multiplying fractions is much easier than adding and subtracting them. One of the reasons why the multiplication of fractions is much easier is the simple fact that we do not need to find a common denominator. Okay. The main thing or the main focus as we are multiplying fractions, and something that you're going to want to highlight in your book or underline in your book, is the fact that we're just going to multiply our numerators and our denominators. Again, we do not need to find a common denominator. We're going to look at a couple different scenarios here, but for the most part, we're just looking at multiplying the numerators and then multiplying your denominators, and then we always want to make sure that our answers are in simplest form. One other thing that I'm going to be talking about today is cross-reducing. Cross-reducing is a method that we can use that will help us with our simplifying and also the multiplication of smaller numbers. So hopefully you'll find that useful as well. Okay, you can take a look at the two examples that they have given you on the board. First one is giving or looking at with numbers, and then the second one is with your variables or algebraically. Please note here that with 2/6 we would want to reduce that down to 1/3. Okay, moving along here. Okay, again, the focus is going to be making sure we're writing the product. Remember, product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So we want to make sure that we're writing the answer of the product in simplest form. Okay, taking a look at the first example that they have given you here, I have 1/2 times 1/3. When I go ahead and take a look at these, I'm going to look at my numerator here with my denominator over here, and vice versa with those. I want to look at those two sets to see if there's a compatible number or a number that both of those numbers can be divided by. When I take a look at 1 and 3, there's not a number that I can divide both of them by evenly. Same thing with 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply straight across. You can see here they're taking your numerators, 1 times 1, and we're going to get 1. And then they're multiplying denominators, 2 times 3, which gives us 6. So in simplest form, when we multiply 1/2 times 1/3, we're going to come up with 1/6. Same rule is going to apply when we take a look at number 2. Example number 2 is a little bit different in the sense that they're taking a whole number times a negative fraction. Please remember that we can write whole numbers as fractions by just simply putting a 1 underneath those. So as you take a look here, they've changed the whole number 1 to 2/1 times -3/4. Again, I'm going to look here to see if I can cross-reduce. I want to introduce that because I really do believe that it makes it a lot easier for you. One of the things that I'm going to notice is I have both 2 and 4 here. I can divide both a 2 and a 4 divided by 2 evenly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to think to myself, well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, okay, and 4 divided by 2 would be 2. So I'm crossing out the original numbers that I had there, and I'm replacing them with a 1 and a 2. Then I'm going to look at the other two. I've got 1 and -3. There's not a factor that's going to go into both 1 and -3, so we're going to leave that. Then I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times -3 would give me -3 over, and then I have 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, now you can see your book did not cross-reduce, so they came up with -6/4, which if you think about it, -6/4 is going to be the same as -3/2. Again, we want to make sure that we simplify or always put it in simplest form. So I'm asking myself, okay, well, -3/2, I'm actually dividing that out. So 2 will go into -3 once. Okay, so I have a -1, and 3 minus 2 is 1, and my denominator was 2. So another way to rewrite -3/2 as an improper fraction is to write it as -1 and 1/2 as a mixed number. Again, I strongly advise when you can cross-reduce to try to do that right away. Okay. Taking a look here, and you can see on example number 3, the book did show you how to cross-reduce. Okay, so they're taking 2/7 times a -3/8. Again, I'm looking crossways to see if I can divide or find a factor that will go into both of them. I know that 2 goes into both 2 and 8, so I'm going to divide both of them by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we're crossing the 2 off and putting a 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so I cross the 8 off and put a 4. There's not a factor that will go into both 3 and 7, so that's going to stay the same. Now I can take 1 times 3 and get 3. 7 times negative 4 would be negative 28. So my answer is negative 3 over 28. What I would like you to do right now is to go ahead and pause your video and take some time to answer questions A, B, and C. Remember to show your work on those. When you take a look at A, B, and C, first of all, I'm going to look at letter A. I'm looking to see if I can cross reduce, and I cannot anywhere. So I'm going to multiply straight across. 3 times 1 would give me 3. 5 times 2 is 10, and that is in simplest form. So there's my answer. Again, we do not need to have common denominators because we are multiplying. So you multiply your numerator straight across and then your denominator straight across. Letter B, I'm taking a fraction times an integer. So I'm thinking 2/3 times negative 4 over 1. Looking to see if I can cross reduce, and I cannot. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply my numerators. 2 times negative 4 would be negative 8 over 3 times 1 would be 3. Now I want to take negative 8/3 and reduce it or write it as a mixed number. So I'm asking myself, how many times does 3 go into negative 8? I know that will go in there negative 2 times because 3 times negative 2 would be negative 6. When I subtract 8 minus 6, I'm going to have 2 left. So I would have negative 2 and 2/3. I can double check it. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So I have negative 8 over 3. So there would be our answer for letter B. Taking a look at letter C, I've got a negative times a negative. Also, I'm looking to see if I can cross reduce, and I can on this one. Not with 1 and 7, but with my 3's. I can take both of those 3's and divide by 3, excuse me. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now I'm thinking negative 1 times negative 1. Remember, when you take a negative times a negative, you're going to get a positive. So I would have 1 on top, and then 1 times 7 is going to be 7. So hopefully, as you worked through problems A, B, and C, you were able to come up with the same answers as I. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next page, 313. One of the things that's going to change when we get to page 313 is they're going to implement mixed numbers. Remember, mixed numbers are your whole numbers and their fractions. So one of the things that you're going to want to do, first and foremost, is when you are multiplying mixed numbers, you're going to want to make sure that you rename that mixed number as an improper fraction. Okay, so we're going to review how to do that here in a second. Okay, if I've got 1/2 times 4 2/5, technically what I want to do is rename that as an improper. So you're taking your denominator times your whole number, so 5 times 4 would be 20, plus 2 is 22. So when I rewrite this, I can technically think 1/2 times 22 over 5. Okay, then I can look to see if I can cross reduce. I know that 2 goes into both 2 and 22, so that 2 divided by 2 is 1. 22 divided by 2 is 11. 1 times 11 is 11. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, 11/5 is going to be the same as 5 goes into 11 twice, and that's 10. 11 minus 10 is 1, so I have 2 and 1/5. And that would be my answer. Okay, first of all, you can see that your book is showing you a couple different ways to do this. They're having you estimate first to see what your answer is going to be. They estimated it to be about 2. When I actually saw this, 2 and 1/5 is very close to 2, so I'm pretty close. Okay, another way is your mental math. In my opinion, it's probably going to be easier to just go ahead and rename this mixed number right away. Okay, as you can see in method 1, and follow through it that way. Please take a look at method 2 though, and note what they are doing in your book. Okay, so right now, after you've looked at those 2 methods, what I would like you to do is pause your video and go ahead and complete Got It problems D, E, and F. Alrighty, as you're working through these, hopefully you were able to come up with the correct answers. Again, we're going to rename, so I'm thinking 1/4 times, changing this to an improper. 9 times 8 is 72. 72 plus 4 would be 76 over 9. Okay, Hopefully we can recognize that we can cross reduce here. I know for sure I can divide by 2, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. 76 divided by 2, if I'm not familiar or don't know that right away, I can take 76 divided by 2. That's going to give me 16, so I have 38 on that one. Okay, so I can cross that and actually go to 38. Now, once my numbers are smaller, I know 2 goes into 38, so I'm going to actually cross it out and put a 1. And I'm going to think half of 38, which I know is 19. So there I'm working with smaller numbers now. Now I can go ahead and multiply my numerators. 1 times 19 is 19. 1 times 9 is 9. I can rewrite that. 9 times 2 is 18. 19 minus 18 is 1. So I have 2 and 1/9. Looking at letter E, again I'm going to rename. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16 over 3 times 3 over 1. Looking to see if we can cross reduce, I can divide both of my 3's by 3 and get 1. So now I can't cross reduce here, so I'm going to multiply my numerators. 16 times 1 is 16, 1 times 1 is 1, so 16 over 1 would be the same as 16. And then looking at the last one we have here, notice we have 2 negatives, so I'm going to rename. So 8 times 1 is 8 plus 7 would be 15 over 8, and again that's a negative, times 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12 over 5, and again that's a negative. I can cross reduce a couple different places here. 5 will go into both 5 and 15, so 5 divided by 5 is 1. Negative 15 divided by 5 would be 3, so I've got a negative 3. I can divide both of those by 4, so 8 divided by 4 would be 2. Negative 12 divided by 4 would be a negative 3. So negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give me a positive 9. 2 times 1 is 2. 9 over 2 would be the same as 4 and 1/2. So again, check your answers that you came up with mine to see if you have the correct answers. One other problem to take note, okay, is going to be the top of 314. Okay, they have a real world example for you at the top of 314, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. It says humans sleep about 1/3 of each day. Let each year equal 365 and 1/4 days. Determine the number of days in a year the average human sleeps. Okay, so we know we have 1/3 of each day. When we see that of in math, we know that that's going to mean multiplication. So I should be thinking 1/3 times, okay, my days, 365 and 1/4. So we're thinking 1/3 times 365 and 1/4. They did estimate first to see what their answer is going to be about. Then again, you're taking 1/3 times, we want to change that or rename that. They renamed it as 1,461 over 4. Okay, then I can cross reduce, multiply straight across. So basically, okay, the average human is going to sleep 121 3/4 days out of the year. So again, just taking what we've learned with multiplying fractions and putting it into a word problem situation. Please note again, remember, top priority with multiplying fractions, number 1, you do not need to have a common denominator. Number 2, please make sure you look to see if you can cross reduce first, multiply your numerators, then multiply your denominators, and double check to make sure your answers are in simplest form. At this time, you can go ahead and take a look at the website and begin working on your extra practice problems.